Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on owlscoop.com. You already know.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Scoop, owlscoop.com's podcast. I'm John DiCarlo, joined once again by Dante Collinelli and Sam Cohn. Kyle Gauss is not with us today. We miss him. Hope he's doing well. We'll have him hopefully next week. Season 7, episode 17. Sam, I know you've studied famous number 17s for us. What do you have?
Philip Rivers. That was on
You
the
got
spot.
one. There you go.
I actually got really scared when you said that.
Yeah,
I was like, crap, I don't have
today's Philip Rivers' birthday, so that does
Is it
double
really?
duty. It is
Wow.
really. I think
There are no coincidences in life.
It might have been yesterday, but it could be today.
I thought it was today. I don't know.
I could be wrong.
How do you guys know it's his birthday?
The internet.
One of my friends is a Chargers fan. Those exist. I know, shocker. And he was talking about it. So
Dante, number 17. What do you think of?
mine was gonna be Philip Rivers. So I've stalled talking about his birthday, trying to come up with another one, and I have been unsuccessful in doing so. Brock Osweiler. There you go.
Ooh.
There's your number 17.
Very
What
nice.
about Devontae Adams?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I never think of 17 as a wide receiver number. I know that it like technically is, but it like that is always a quarterback number in my head. I don't know why.
Scott Rowland.
Was he 27?
Oh no, he was 27. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he was 27. He
Yeah.
was not number 17. I
Yeah.
failed.
My favorite
Wow.
baseball player of all time, Scott Rowland.
Well,
Really?
John, we're never going to let you live this one down. That was super embarrassing.
There's a difference between goofing on Scott Rowland and you as a Red Sox fan goofing on the most iconic Red Sox player of all time. The Teddy Williams episode number 2.
Apples and oranges. Tomato,
Potato.
other fruits. Anyway,
Well, welcome back, everybody. This will be a mailbag heavy episode. We've got some basketball to talk about. And of course, Temple's ongoing coaching search. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. A source that I usually trust and doesn't lead me wrong. It said that the search might be wrapping up by this point in the week. It obviously has not. But once again, like I said, in the mailbag, we'll get to your football questions. We will get to the coaching search questions. We've got some interesting questions this week. Some of them off topic, some of them a little dark, but whatever. We'll answer them. But let's talk first about this Temple basketball team. They win on the road last night at Vanderbilt. On one hand, we don't want to confuse this Vanderbilt team with a team that's going to win the SEC, but still the first true road win of the season for Temple, nonetheless, 72-68 in overtime, thanks in part to some timely foul shooting from Ty Strickland, and of course a big three-pointer with Damian Dunn with 20 seconds left. Sam, I'll go over to you on this one first. What did you think of what you saw last night?
that was quite the basketball game. That was
Quite the basketball game.
the most I don't want to say it was like a great game because for 37 minutes, like it really wasn't. It was actually
Absolutely
really,
was not. It was like
it was really
watching
bad.
two teams play with peach baskets.
It was really bad. In the beginning, it was a lot of like Vandy's defense played a lot of high pressure, brought a lot of quick doubles, and really kind of forced Temple to ping the ball around. Really forced a lot of quick passes. So in a little way, that kind of like helped keep Temple's offense from getting stagnant. But neither team could really shoot the ball that well. Like Temple was really only putting points on the board just through its athleticism, like able to get through guys, able to get to close, able to get to the basket. Ty Strickland had one like really nice lefty float, like offhand floater. When I was watching the game back this morning, like for a lot of the game, like neither team really shot the ball very well. They for the most part limited Scottie Pippen Jr. And then you get to the last like 2 minutes of regulation. I think Temple was up by 9 with like a little under 2 minutes left. And maybe with Caliph, they closed it out. It's not a problem. But they were hitting free throws, but Vandy was also like chipping their way back. There was a couple, there was like that one out of bounds call at the end that gave Vanderbilt the shot at the end. So Vanderbilt hung around. And then obviously the Scottie Pippen Jr. 3 from the corner was pretty ridiculous. Goes to regulation. Overtime, Temple falls behind pretty quick. That was a huge momentum shift when Scottie Pippen Jr. hits the 3 from the corner. Then they go into OT. Temple falls down by 5, and you start to think Temple was up 9 with, a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, and they're going to fall apart and blow this. This is the kind of thing that Temple I don't want to say did a lot of last year because they just weren't able to close out games like that. But it's a similar thing. We're in a close game late. It's a young team. This was the hope was that Temple kind of learns from last year, more experienced guys are able to close out games like this. And they crawled their way back. Jaleel White hits one free throw to tie the game. And then they get a stop. And then I think it was the Ty Strickland. I think it was tied. They're bringing the ball. Vanderbilt's bringing the ball up, and Ty Strickland gets that steal that he thought they call the foul on. You see his face. He's like, no way. Really, really underrated defensive possession throughout the entire game. The last 3 minutes of overtime, Temple played really well. They were hitting free throws, something they haven't done a lot of, but I think the big takeaway is that Dame shot. It has to be, because without Caliph, and I know we're going to talk about this, might circle back to this later, but without Caliph, the narrative was like, okay, Temple doesn't have a guy that can just go out there and get a bucket. And they don't have a guy like when they're in scoring droughts. And I wrote about this a little bit earlier in the week, and they don't have a guy that when they need a shot late can get that shot and can knock it down. Damian Dunn shut me right up. Damian Dunn went out there. That was a stone cold shot. Had the ball with like 40 seconds left. Jeremiah had at the top of the key, gave it to Dame, and you can see Dame kind of call for the ISO. And you got guys posted up in the corner ready if he needs it, but he wasn't passing it. He almost lost the ball, recovers, goes between the legs, and just fires. And you can see his confidence was through the roof after that shot. So that's the biggest takeaway. But I mean, holistically speaking, that was against a not very good Vandy team. The way they played in the last 7 minutes, 2 minutes of regulation and 5 minutes of overtime, I would call that a statement win. Just the way they were able to fight back and win that game and close that out.
Win. Wow.
On the road too.
Dante, would you call it a statement win?
I don't know about a statement. I don't know how good that Vanderbilt team is, man. I'm not like the basketball analyst that Sam is, but like that was some bad basketball.
That's what I'm saying is that
80% of the game.
Yeah, and I don't want to give Vandy too much credit because Vanderbilt was not that great. I mean, I forget the other guy's name, number 4, something, and then something man, or Jordan Wright, something man, and Scottie Pippen Jr. all played pretty well. But like as a whole, as a team, they didn't.
Man, Scottie Pippen Jr. Yeah, Jordan Wright.
Yeah. Vanderbilt didn't play that well, but the way Temple was able to like just kind of figure things out late,
right,
fight back, knock down free throws, play really good team defense, like on the road. That was a really, really good win for them.
No, I agree.
Confidence wise, more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm teasing you more than anything. Again, we don't want to confuse Vanderbilt with one of the top teams in the SEC, but that's still a good road win. Vandy was favored by what, 8.5, or whatever it's worth. And, to win that game without Caliph Battle, something they're going to have to learn how to do for the rest of the season. Again, I think that, when they had, one point in the game, I think both teams went through scoring droughts of more than 5 minutes or close to 5 minutes against a better team. You're going to be down double digits at that point, but they did find a way to win. The Scottie Pippen Jr. 3 from the corner seemed unlikely, but he got that shot off. The lone blemish for Damian Dunn last night was 7 turnovers and 16 total for Temple. Before we get into the mailbag, and again, Temple real quick has St. Joe's this Saturday as they move into their third Big 5 game. They've beaten Penn, they've beaten LaSalle. They have St. Joe's Saturday, Villanova near the end of this month, a struggling St. Joe's team that they'll have Saturday. But 7 turnovers for Damian Dunn, of course, the big shot. 6 assists for Jeremiah Williams. Quincy Adamakoya gets the start again, 1 of 5 in 20 minutes. All 5 of those attempts were from 3. We'll talk about him a little bit more in the mailbag. We want to talk, before we get to that mailbag, about Ty Strickland again. So you look at his line from last night, 34 minutes. And again, those 34 minutes come off the bench in overtime. So there's extra basketball there. 5 of 12 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3, 9 of 12 from the line, 7 rebounds, just 1 turnover, 2 blocks out of Ty Strickland, and a steal, and a team high 21 points. And that was also a game high 21 points. Sam, you've written about him. We've talked about Ty last year was kind of a non-factor. We've talked about the fact that his shoulder maybe wasn't ever truly in its right place. Now it does seem to be. Did you think he would be, and again, there's a long way to go with the season. I'll throw this out to both of you guys. Did you think he would be as good as he's been, and as important as he's been to the team this season?
I think it's hard to answer now comparative to like what we thought his role would be at the beginning of the season, just because without Caliph, like he takes on so much, I think, larger of a burden.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about with Chris Clark on the last time Chris Clark was on the pod, whenever that was, we had talked a little bit about how good Ty was defensively last year. It was his offensive game that really wasn't there, and that's what kept him off the floor. Last night, Damian Dunn had 3 fouls that kept him off the floor, and then 4 fouls that kept him off the floor. So it's not like Ty wasn't going to play a lot of minutes, but his minutes for a lot of last night were inflated. For a lot of the Vandy game were inflated because of Damian Dunn's foul trouble. For a majority of the way, he was playing more minutes. I think he did finish with more minutes. Yeah, he finished with more minutes, 5 more minutes than Damian Dunn. And he said after the game, he's like, my shot, because I said to him, I asked him something along the lines of career high in points. What did you see that you could exploit? What were you seeing in their defense? What was working for you? And he was like, honestly, my shot wasn't falling. I was making a living at the free throw line. And he felt really confident about what he was doing at the free throw line. He knew he could get to the line. He knew he could attack that defense. So I think more than anything, it's confidence, it's free throws, it's his ability to contribute defensively. And without Caliph, he's going to be a huge part of their offense, because percentage wise, he was their best scorer. He was their second best scorer behind Caliph. Him as a spark plug off the bench is huge for Temple offensively. I'm curious if there's ever a point where they get to where they say, maybe we want Quincy off the bench and start Ty. But I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think it's been working for them to bring Ty off the bench and then have him see those minutes. As Fran Dunphy says, as Aaron says, as coaches say, it's not about who starts, it's about who finishes. So I think it's really important that Temple has Ty back, and he's going to take on a much bigger role, especially on the offensive end of the floor as the weeks go by.
We're just 2 games into it, including Saturday's game, Saturday's win over Penn, and then of course last night's road win at Vanderbilt. You and Bella broke that news about Quincy Adamakoya being the guy who moved into the starting lineup. We talked about it a little bit, outside of the podcast. What did you think of the decision to start? And again, I don't know if it's going to be an ongoing thing, but what do you think of Aaron's decision to start Quincy Adamakoya there with Caliph Battle off for the year?
I don't think it's a bad decision. I think it makes sense for where they're at right now. I was definitely surprised that it wasn't Jaleel, but we had talked about over text that it's not the worst idea, just because they really need a 3-point shooter in that starting lineup. Jeremiah Williams and Damian Dunn are both guys that, okay, if they pull it, fine, but they're both shooting beneath 30% from 3. They don't really have a true 3-point shooter, a lights out shooter. Quincy Adamakoya was supposed to be that guy. He hits his first 2 in the Penn game, and it's like, all right, Aaron seems like a genius right now, giving this kid a shot. And then he misses the next 7. Similar thing against Vandy, where he goes 1 for 5. So if those numbers don't improve, he's going to shoot his way out of the starting lineup. But they really like his length defensively. I think he works well in that offense where he can be a spot up shooter. He's not, I think it was I don't want to speak too much to his performance against the Vandy game, but in the Penn game, every time he drove the ball into the lane, he turned the ball over. It was like 4 or 5 times. He turned the ball over every time he went into the lane. So he's a shooter. He's a guy that can catch and shoot. He's the guy that can give you one dribble sidestep. Like, he's got great looks, great form. The shot just wasn't falling. So I think that he either shoots his way into staying in the starting lineup or he shoots his way out of it because he's not doing enough elsewhere on the floor to make enough an impact that it'll make up for the missed shots.
So we'll talk a little bit more about Quincy Adam McCoy in the mailbag. There's a mailbag question there. We have plenty to get to from the message board and then some on Twitter as well. And that's where we'll start to get into, again, of course, Temple's football coaching search last Monday. So we are 8-9 days removed from Temple making the decision to fire Rod Carey after 3 seasons in which he went 12-20. Between our last podcast and now, we've done a lot of just, profiling some candidates who we either know have interest in the job or might have interest in the job. But again, as we are sitting here on Wednesday, December 8th at 4:40 p.m. as we record this, Temple has not hired anybody. But let's dive into these mailbag questions, several of which are about the coaching search. First, these first several questions are going to be from the message board from owlscoop.com subscribers. First one from the screen name JHG722. The question is, poll the room. Who would you hire? Dante, I'll start with you, then I'll go to you, Sam.
I'm between 2 guys, but since I'm not a coward, I'm going to go with Stan Drayton. Stan Drayton.
Since I'm
Yeah.
not a coward.
Yeah.
Not a coward.
So
Not a coward.
confrontational.
Not
right
a
off the
coward.
bat.
No. Well, I was torn between 2 guys, and I was sitting on that for a while. It was either him or Elijah Robinson. I'd be really happy with either of those 2 guys. I wrote the profile on Drayton. I just think his resume is super impressive, and it seems like he's been on the fringe of getting a shot. I read some things that like NFL teams have been trying to get him to go to the NFL and be a coordinator and different things like that. So he's clearly very well regarded. I think the only problem that you have with him, right, is it seems like the players and a lot of people want a Temple guy, right, a former Temple guy, and that is not Stan Drayton. He's not a former Temple guy. His coaching experience in Philadelphia is limited to the late 90s and the early 2000s at Villanova and Penn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, over 20 years ago, right? So I think the big problem with him is how connected are you to this area? Probably not a ton, but, who knows? But I think overall, 27 years of coaching experience, I kind of view him as like a CEO type head coach. A guy who comes in, establishes a good culture, manages a good program, kind of sets this place back where, it's on kind of those winning tracks that we talk about a lot in football. And I think that, I'd love to see who he would want to bring in as his coordinators as well, because I think that would be a big part of it. Because again, I kind of view him as that like John Harbaugh. I know, Javon is probably kicking his chair right now, me talking about John Harbaugh.
So upset with John Harbaugh.
Yeah, he's so obsessed with John Harbaugh. But I kind of think that Stan, I don't know. I kind of think that Stan Drayton would be that type of coach, that CEO head coach, where he could come in, establish a good program. He's an incredibly talented recruiter. His recruiting background goes all the way back to the Pouncey brothers and Cam Newton at the University of Florida when they're really good. Obviously, much easier to recruit for the University of Florida than it is for Temple, but I think the guy's got the stones for it. I think he would be smart enough to surround himself with Temple people on his staff as well, and maybe that kind of helps mitigate the fact that he doesn't have that background. But that him and Elijah Robinson would be my top 2. I'll lean with Drayton just because I really like his recruiting profile and kind of how diverse it is, right? He's not just a guy who's recruited one position successfully. He's recruited a ton of positions successfully.
Sam?
Contrary to popular belief, I am also not a coward.
Yes.
I also had 2. I am also going with 1. I'm going to go with Elijah Robinson. Stan Drayton was also my other one. But in going over the whole, like, in talking to people about kind of like what kind of needs to happen, it seems there's a consensus that a lot of people are rooting for, I for lack of a better word, like think that the key to success for Temple football down the line with whoever this next new hire is someone that understands Temple. Arthur has said it, players have said it, people on the inside have said it, that former players have said it, whatever, that there needs to be like they need to kind of reestablish that culture. Amir Tyler, I think I've said this on the pod before, but Amir Tyler said after the Navy game that, he thought that was a little bit lost with a lot of the new guys, a lot of the, incoming transfers, outgoing transfers, a lot of young guys. Like, they need someone that's going to come in and kind of reestablish, this Temple tough culture mentality. And a lot of people want that rule guy, as Dante had mentioned. Elijah Robinson is the rule guy, a guy that knows the program, a guy that's been around the block, a guy that is a very good recruiter. Just flipped the number one, D lineman in the country to Texas A&M. So I think that he would be a great pick. How good he would be as a head coach, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that as of right now, but I think he checks off all the boxes of what it looks like to bring in a hire that could kind of turn things around for Temple football.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Sam. I would give Elijah Robinson the slight edge over Stan Drayton. A lot of fans mostly will point out that neither guy has been a coordinator before. I don't really know how much that matters at the end of the day. I think if you are a good CEO type, as we've said, if you establish a good culture, obviously the coordinators you hire would be, critically important anyway. But and again, I mean, Stan Drayton could be, I've never met Stan Drayton before. I'm trying to learn more about him from people who have been around him. All I know of Stan Drayton is what I've read about him, and Dante gave you a pretty good snapshot there. I suppose if he does get the job, media outlets around here will probably rush to interview Brian Westbrook and ask him about Stan Drayton. He was the coach who recruited Brian Westbrook to Villanova. Actually, I believe, and I should know this as someone who's lived in this area and being around the Eagles, I want to say, I think that Westbrook got hurt in high school, right? And was probably bound for a bigger program, and he's coming off a knee injury. And that's kind of why Nova was able to get him. But nonetheless, again, he's been around some great backs, but I do think, there are some fans who think this is way too parochial of a mindset to have. I would disagree. You need somebody in here who really either A, understands how to win at Temple and really understands how much that they need to invest themselves, or if you haven't worked at Temple before, you better embrace that, because if you don't, you end up doing what Rod Carey did and what was, ended up being in year 2 and year 3, a total unmitigated disaster, especially this year. There's just more and more stuff. The more I talk to people, this guy had this to say about him, that guy had that to say. It's just, just didn't work at the end of the day. And I'll give the slight edge to Elijah here. I would be surprised if it's not either one of those guys. But again, I don't think that, we say a lot of times in covering a coaching search, there could be a name that comes out of nowhere in the last minute. I don't know that I see that happening this time around, but if it is a name that we're not expecting, I still think that person will either A, have a tie to Temple in some way, shape, or form, or that person will have a tie to Arthur Johnson in some way, shape, or form. Next question here comes from Diamond and Broad on our message board. 3-part question. Question number 1, who was on the hiring/search committee? For example, which board members and what search firm? Don't know the search firm. Don't know which board of trustee members are on the hiring committee. I don't know for sure. I don't want to try to throw crap at the wall here and see if it sticks. I know that someone like Jovan Fair, who a former Temple football player who's now back on the academic side of things, working in the Resnick Center, I was told that he's on the committee. I get the sense that Arthur Johnson and Jason Wingard are going to have a lot of autonomy here to pick the next head coach. In the past, as Diamond and Broad is alluding to here, yes, Arthur Johnson did say that they will be hiring a search firm. I'm of the understanding that happened last week. How involved the search firm is going to be, I don't know. If they're just going to, kind of collect the candidates before they do interviews. I think, again, the emphasis on think that it could be pared down a little bit more this time around. Couldn't tell you for sure which board members will be involved. Bill Mills, one of the trustees, is the chair of the athletics committee. I'm guessing that he will be involved, but again, I don't know for certain. So I don't know. Couldn't really get into a ton of specifics there unless I, saw a confirmed list myself, which I haven't. Good question. Just wouldn't know entirely at this point exactly who's on the committee. Question number 2, any sense on whether Arthur Johnson has talked to Rule or other former players who were successful here? I do know for a fact that Arthur Johnson and Matt Rule talked last week. Has he talked to former players who were successful at Temple? Don't know for sure, but what I continue to be told is that Arthur Johnson is very methodical, very fair, takes good notes, is a good listener, and I think he really, it might sound like a no kidding type of statement. What athletic director wouldn't want to get this right, especially as his first major hire? But I think he very, very much has been very methodical about getting this right. Guys, anything that you have heard that you wanted to contribute on these first 2 questions before we jump to number 3 here?
I don't think I have anything abundantly crazy to add, but I would just echo what you said, that in terms of timeline wise, in terms of just things I've heard about who, where, when, how, whatever, that who Arthur is talking to. I mean, not that I have anything crazy to share, but that it seems that Arthur really, again, stating the obvious, that he is very much being methodical with this to make sure that he gets this one right.
And you are being methodical in your approach to trying to look like Kenny from South Park with this hoodie that you're sporting.
Yes,
I would have,
as I pull the strings.
Yes, we're recording on Zoom, and Sam has a hoodie on, and there must be a chill in your
Yeah,
apartment.
my house is a little cold right now.
It's cold in the room I'm sitting in. I don't know why. The
Where
regular,
are you right now, Dante? Where are you? Where are
I
your
am
exact
in
coordinates?
student room center, room 243. Temple
Student
News.
student room center.
Yeah,
What?
student center room. Student center room.
There you go.
Yeah. 243. I'm in the business office. I'm like hidden by a computer. Nobody can see me in here. It's very covert.
Everybody
But it's also
knows where
very
you are.
cold. Yeah. Come and get me.
Come and get you. Nobody wants to just don't be so confrontational. Come and get you. Everybody comes in peace here, Dante. The third question
That
here.
has not been my experience on the message boards, John. I don't.
Message boards can get a little testy at times.
Yes.
It's message board culture for you. The third and final question here from Diamond and Broad. When do you think this gets wrapped up, and who ultimately is the coach? I think we kind of already answered that part of it. When do you think this ultimately gets wrapped up? I honestly don't know. I'm never totally surprised when I think I have the timeline on this, and then it wraps up a couple days earlier. So again, we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, so nothing doing today. I will say that I think enough people have told me that I believe that that Jason Wingard, Temple's president, Arthur Johnson, Temple's athletic director, were out at the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame annual awards dinner out in Las Vegas for the College Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame ceremony. And I think they're basically people are basically treating that as like a mini convention out there, so to speak. I don't know if they were out there interviewing candidates. I don't know for sure. I can tell you of certain candidates who I know, are interested, but haven't interviewed. So could it be that they could be getting back today and having a decision made by Friday? Could be, but I don't know. I mean, they've been pretty tight-lipped. And again, if this is your first time listening to The Scoop, or your first time really being locked in on a coaching search, it's not very common for athletic directors to release at all the names of people that they're interviewing. So it's not uncommon for a coaching search to be tight-lipped, but this one certainly has been. So do I think it's likely that this will get wrapped up by the end of the week? I'm not so sure. Ultimately, as the coach, again, I keep landing on either, I think we all kind of keep landing on Elijah Robinson or Stan Drayton, but we shall see. Guys, have you changed your mind since the last time we answered this question 5 minutes ago? If so, not going to criticize you for being flaky. Sam, you've changed your mind.
I'd like to put Kyle Gauss's name in this on the board.
We'll get to him later. We'll get to him better later with Sam Newman's question about building out the Al Scoop staff, the football staff with Al Scoop staff members. The next question here, also from the message board, is from the screen name Park Al. This is basketball related. The Park-out question is, this team could have folded after the Charleston Classic blowouts. Instead, they came out firing. They could have folded when Caleb Battle went down. Instead, they came out and exercised many of their frequent demons: post presence, free throw shooting, giving up late leads, and then losing. It certainly looks, in italics, like a different Temple team that we've seen in a while. Being closer to them, does this feel, in italics, like a different Temple team in terms of the locker room and the huddle, etc.? Sam, I'll go to you first on this. What do you think?
Well, the first thing I'll say is electric following along with Caleb Battle live tweeting this
Yes.
Temple Vanderbilt game. That was probably my favorite part of the game. Does it feel like a different Temple team? I think that's a really good question. I don't think it feels like a different Temple team from pre-Caleb Battle getting hurt and post-Caleb Battle getting hurt. I think it is admirable the way the energy has kind of remained and the upbeat attitude has kind of stayed since he went down, because that's a real blow. That's the kind of thing that, like, even Caleb Battle said he sees fans say, "Oh, this is over, this is done, this is the end." He sees it, and he doesn't love it. He wants people to know that he feels so confident in the guys in the locker room, and he really, really likes the team that they've built. So
You sound like Caleb Battle's hype man.
Sorry,
You look like you have like you look like a boxing promoter right now.
I knew that was coming at some point because
Yeah.
it's a gray hoodie.
Yeah.
Might go for a run after in a grout fit. Anyway, I think that the confidence and the aura around the team has been really upbeat and confident all season. And I think these guys, coaching staff and players alike, really like the group they have and what they're capable of, the potential. Obviously, we've talked about they're still a pretty young team. There's still a lot of things to figure out. And they're going to have games like the first two of the Charleston Classic, like that Clemson game. They're going to have games like that where they really just don't look very good at all. But the confidence, the upbeat aura, I think, is definitely there. It feels like a different team. It feels very much like a different team from last year. But I wouldn't be so quick to say it feels like that much different of a team from before and after Caleb Battle got hurt, which I think is the most admirable part of it all, because it'd be really easy to kind of shut down and sulk a little bit when you lose your top scorer and a guy that's been playing like one of the best guards in the country. The confidence is there. The confidence is there, and I would imagine a lot of it is these guys are just playing for Caleb, and everybody's just kind of stepping up into a bigger role.
Dante, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the biggest change that I've noticed is that this feels like a more mature team, right? Like one of the big things last year was not getting to play together a lot. They're one of the more like inexperienced teams in the country, right? Aren't they? So like, I think them winning a game like they did against Vanderbilt last night, I think just shows a growth and maturity. You bounce back from, Scottie Pippen Jr. nailing that 3-pointer in the corner. They fell behind initially in overtime, right? Too, if I remember correctly, Vandy got out to like a 5-0 start in that overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I think it was a sign of maturity that without their best player and in on a road against an okay opponent, they were able to kind of stem the tide a couple of times and make a comeback and win that game. So again, I didn't call it a statement win, but I totally agree with Sam. It was a good win. And I think it definitely shows that it's a little bit of a different team this year. So I think that, if you're a Temple fan, it's a good sign that this program is at least trending in the right direction, the direction that, Aaron McKee definitely has been talking about it going in for the past couple of years.
I think if I'm understanding Park Al's question here, I don't know that they're asking us to compare pre-Caleb and post-Caleb here, but I think that I think, yes, I think I agree with what he's saying. It does look like a different Temple team. If he's saying that we've seen in a while, does it feel like a different Temple team? I think so. I'll get another look at them Saturday at Hagan Arena, just up the road in West Philly. I do think, I think the biggest difference is just, they're still very inexperienced, but the athleticism, when Caleb Battle does go down, obviously a huge blow for them. I think if Caleb Battle's playing that game last night, they win comfortably by maybe 12, 14 points. You could credit a lot of that to Temple's defense, but I think Vandy was just missing shots around. Both teams were missing shots around the rim, and just, even Ty missed a couple of shots, whereas form was great. Had a couple of shots that just rimmed in and out. But when Caleb went down, obviously an unfortunate thing, but I think there were a lot of different feasible options there. You could say, okay, well, what could Aaron be looking for here? And again, we'll talk about him. There's a question there about Adam McCoy. I kind of like it. Okay, let's see what this kid's got, and Sam, you alluded to this. I mean, he did not look strong with the ball at all against Penn on Saturday, hit those 2 early threes and kind of faded after that. Didn't play a huge role in last night's win. But then you look around and you could say, well, I could see him starting Jaleel White. Jaleel's not a knockdown shooter by any means, but he's showing a little bit more of a comfort level in getting to the rim. He is long. He is athletic. If Aaron said, let's throw Zach Hicks out there, he's a 6'8", 6'9" freshman. Yes, he's very untested at this point, but he can shoot the crap out of the ball. I mean, he's got to knock him down, but you could have, seen that happening. Or you could say, well, maybe we put Nick Jordan out there. He can block shots. He can rebound. He can shoot the ball too. I think last year you might have been looking around thinking, okay, and I don't want to knock these guys. They've moved along, but Dre Perry, not a terrible athlete, but a little bit more limited athletically. JP Mormon, with all due respect to the 575-foot shot he hit a couple weeks ago, definitely limited athletically. I just think they have more options this year. And now it's going to be a real growth season. How much does Jaleel White come along? How much does Zach Hicks come along? He didn't play last night, but, Hysier Miller has seen extended minutes. I mean, they have, a few different guys they're playing the same position in Jeremiah Williams and Ty Strickland and Hysier Miller to a certain extent. But the fact that they could actually look at those options, and again, I'm not saying that any of them are Caliph Battle, but you could look around the roster and say there's a reason you don't think Aaron McKee is crazy for starting Zach Hicks. You don't think he's crazy for starting Jaleel White. You don't think he's crazy for, maybe starting Ty Strickland or, starting Quincy Adams-Okoye. So I think that the biggest difference is the athleticism, the depth. I know a lot of it's not experienced depth, but I just think he has more pieces this year. Dante, I don't know if you said it or Sam, if you said it, seems like a little bit, I think you said it, Dante, seems like a little bit of a mature team. Like they are still very young, but they just have the look and feel of a team that really cares about each other. Not that they didn't last year, but they seem to have some pretty good team chemistry there. So yes, it does feel like a different team. Again, a lot of basketball left ahead. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, I misunderstood the question, but that's okay. Because John, you answered it very well. I would say, I think this team has had the most depth of any Temple team that I've covered. It is a continuous 8, 9, 10 deep. And, not saying that 8, 9, and 10 are shooting the lights out or contributing everything, but they're getting minutes. And before, I'll say this, the first 7 games of the season before Caliph went down, the difference between them going 8 deep and 10 deep was Jaleel White and Zach Hicks. And if those are your 8, 9, 10 guys, I get that they're young and they're like, Jaleel's really rounding out his offensive game. The kid has taken maybe 1 3-pointer all season, but every game he seems to find one extra layer of getting to the rim and doing something a little more acrobatic and something a little more interesting offensively. Defensively, his game's there. Zach Hicks is confident shooting the ball. His minutes have taken a little bit of a dip since he kind of flashed with a couple. I can't remember who they played at home before the Charleston. Yeah, the USC game. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But those are two guys. Those are two guys that are young and have a lot of potential and can really contribute to what Temple wants to do. So I think if that, like Aaron always says, that your strength, he believes their strength is in their numbers. It's a long season, and those guys have a lot of growing to do. But I feel comfortable saying this is probably the most depth Temple's had of any Temple team that I've covered
ever.
Yes, of all time.
In the history of Temple basketball.
In the history of any basketball team ever.
Ever since the game was invented by James Naismith.
So James Naismith had peach baskets, and he had put together this one team that just ran through everybody. 9 dudes, all of them played 20-plus minutes. All of them could shoot the lights out. This Temple team, no, I'm just kidding. None of that was true.
Dante, here's where I could come in with old Depression era radio voice guy, but I think it'd be too queued up.
Please do it. Please.
We figured out the inspiration behind the voice.
Part of the inspiration. Dante and I were talking about this a couple hours ago.
No,
that
thanks
we
for
were-
the invite.
it was a spontaneous thing. Did you want me to say literally before I speak these words, let's get Sam in here? It wasn't like a planned thing like Dante, is your calendar free at 3:30? I'm going to talk to you about this very insignificant detail of my life, but please let me send you a calendar invite. That's not how it came together, Sam. It's not that I don't love you any less, but
I'm kidding. Go
it
ahead.
wasn't
I
it wasn't a
wanted- what's-
party.
What's the inspiration?
Have you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life?
I have.
Yeah. So you know when George Bailey, the Uncle Billy misplaces the $8,000 or whatever that they have at
Yeah.
the building and loan company, and he's just going off the deep end. And so he meets up with Clarence, and he's showing him what his life would be like what if he didn't exist. And they go back to the bar, and the bartender is there, and he's just like, Bedford Falls is just like this, like I said to Dante, it's like this new hellscape. Like it's just not a very tame place, and the bar is mean. Do you remember the voice of that bartender?
Not well enough, but I'm
He
assuming
just, I
that's the
feel like
voice of
when I was
their
watching it, and
Depression era announcer.
my wife teased me when I met her. I'd never seen it as much of a Christmas nut as I am. I'd never seen it in its entirety. She was like, well, you're kind of a fraud until you sit down and watch this whole movie with me. So now I've seen it, I feel like several hundred times. And
John's wife calling him a fraud.
I don't know that she actually called me a fraud, but
I hope she did. That would be funny.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past her. Let's maybe she did. We'll have to go back and check the tape. But anyway, the bartender, when they're sitting there and they're ordering the drink, and Clarence can't decide what he wants, the voice of the bartender, I was watching the other night. I was like, I think I derived some of my inspiration from the bartender. He's like, no, don't. I can't remember the exact line, but he loses his patience with him, and he sounds like a World War II era reporter. He's like, don't be a wise guy here. You better
That's what he
order
said.
that drink and blah 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 blah. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like I've been more on point with the imitation. Maybe there'll be a window a little bit later in the mailbag here for me to bring that out. All right, here's the real dark one here. This is
This is quite a question.
Quite a question. It's a multiple choice question. Oof. All right. The screen name here is BDevin4. I'm going to try to get through this without laughing. I'm already laughing. Here's the question. This is a scenario-based question. John Rothstein is on fire, literally, at midcourt of the Leocourse Center. The Owl Scoop staff has the only available means to save him from becoming hyperbolic ash. Jesus. Collectively, do you, A, let him burn? I mean, heck, it's only December. People on fire, buy stock now. B, calmly explain anarchy. Nope, just a college basketball writer on fire. C, see how it goes. At this point, he's emitting less steam than LaSalle's A10 smoke machine. Oh God,
LaSalle catching strays.
Oh, that little scoreboard thing that they have. God bless them. That's not part of his question. D, mercifully put him out, then go as far as to make sure he's okay and has his bearings. Once he lets his guard down, Kyle hits him with the stone cold stunner. John sprays AAC and dollar signs on his back as Dante and Sam yell, "Look who's sleeping before May." God, the depth and breadth of this question, and just God, this is dark. B Devin 4. I hate to rain on your parade here. John Rothstein gets on my nerves. I think he is a little bit of a hack of a takesman on Twitter. I don't want the guy to die for crying out loud. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. So I would mercifully put him out. Then I would go as far as to make sure he's okay and has his bearings. And then from there, I would recommend a much better place to go eat than he claims to know. I feel like he's the guy who would go to Times Square in New York and eat at the Olive Garden or something like that. So I would stop short of spraying American Athletic Conference and dollar signs on his back.
John, I'm assuming that means AAC money.
Yeah, the dollar signs. I'm just conveying that the actual, the text here. Yes, AAC money on his back. I mean, if Kyle wants to throw a wrestling move at him, so be it.
Are Dante and I still going to make a snarky remark?
Yeah, I mean, well, what are you? How do you guys handle? How do you guys, how do you guys handle yourselves here?
Well, I think the anarchy pun is incredibly good. So I want to say that whether we decide ultimately to put him out or not, I would love to hear the debate between John and Kyle on that. I think that would be an all-time Outscoop debate. But that's a great pun, and I'm a sucker for bad puns. So I want to say that regardless of if we put him out or not.
Sam, what would you do?
I would echo that we don't want John Rothstein to die in a fire.
Of course not.
But calmly explain anarchy. Nope, just a college basketball writer on fire. I like that answer. I also
Great,
I also like the idea of Kyle hitting anybody with a stone cold stunner.
What if Kyle tried to hit him with a stone cold stunner and like pulled his lower back in the process and never got to finish like executing the move? Could you see that happening? Yeah, stink, but it would be so very funny. B. Devon 4 went to a dark place with that question, trying to inject some comedy in the pod.
Over under how long it take to put that question together? Because that's like those answers are really well.
I know. I do not know B. Devon 4, and even if I did, we cannot reveal the identities of people on the message board. I'm going to say over under. I'm going to set the over under on this at 25 minutes.
As dark as it is, I'm impressed by the detail and the execution of this multiple choice question.
Do you take the over or the under on this?
25 minutes. You know why?
Taking the under.
You know why I'm gonna take the under because I think he's thought of this and it just kind of like came to him.
Yeah.
Or her, whoever it is, came to them.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I agree. Initially, I thought maybe B. Devon 4 sees our car from mailbag questions, cracks his knuckles, sits wherever he is, and just says,
has a mechanical pencil and is like,
yeah, mechanical pencil. There's a montage of like just like like upbeat movie music playing.
The over 25 minutes is like he sat down and it's that scene from SpongeBob where he's taking the boating exam and he writes that's all he gets done.
Canceled a couple meetings. I don't know what B. Devon 4 does for a career, but yeah. So we got one more from the message board and then a few more on Twitter that we'll hop over to. Another basketball related question here. This from DBlaze75 is the screen name. The team seems to be making the extra pass and sharing the ball more since Battle went down. Do you think with Battle in the lineup, they would be complacent at times knowing he was their best scorer? By the way, I'm not saying that by any means that they are better with Battle out of the lineup, just an observation in a small sample size. Good question. Sam, Dante, what do you think?
I'm glad this came up because it's something I've wanted to talk about because the Penn game, Temple's first game without Caleb Battle. After the game, Steve Donahue, Penn's head coach, said that he thought, well, let me preface this by saying Zach Demuse, sports director extraordinaire at WHIP, posed the question to Steve Donahue, did he feel like, how did he feel like Temple's offense was different, better in any way without Caleb, or, how does he feel like they did without Caleb? And Steve Donahue put pretty simply that, like, in no way offending Caleb Battle because he's a very good player, that he thought that Temple's offense looked as fluid as it has been all season. A lot more passing, a lot more like sharing the rock to get open looks. And again, like that's not because they're better without Caleb, but in Steve Donahue's words, it's because when you have a scorer like that, someone that can just get a bucket, like guys start to tend to not get stagnant to rely on that one person, but like if he has the ball and you kind of know what he's about to do, it's a little bit more ISO. He can get a shot for himself. Similar question was posed to Aaron McKee just minutes later in response to kind of like what Steve Donahue said. And Aaron said something along the lines of like, people watch college basketball and think that it's, Aaron's brainchild offense that they're constantly running. He's like, when you're in the NBA or when you're playing at a high level college basketball, like, at that level, you get the ball to your best players and, they go to work. There is an offense. There is things set in place for when you need them. But a lot of the times when you have a guy like that, like you can really rely on him. And that's always a good thing to be able to rely on him. But to the point of the question about how the offense is kind of different, I mean, Battle might be complacent at times. I wouldn't say complacent, but I think they kind of understand that Caleb can do that. And that's very much a part of their identity in the offense is like, was having Caleb be able to just get a basket and like be able to create for himself and get those opportunities. They would run, they'd run baseline out of bounds plays for him. They'd run silent out of bounds plays for him. They'd come up the floor and run a quick hitter for him because he's shooting close to 60% from the field and like 50% from three. With that being said, without him in the lineup, I think the identity of their offense changes a little bit because they have lost production to make up for. So then you have someone like Jeremiah Williams, who's as close to flirting with a triple double as you can get. He had 11 points, I think 7 assists and 5 or 6 rebounds. So
the closest he could get would be bumping those categories up to 9.
Yes. So I'm saying he's a tier below flirting with the triple double.
Also, I just want people to know how passionate you are about making this point, because you have since removed your hood. The hood is down. You can see the trace of Under Armour apparel underneath the hoodie. So please,
Chelmsford track and field t-shirt.
There you go.
Anyway,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The point. So Jeremiah becomes more of that. Like Jeremiah's job as a facilitator becomes more important to be able to find guys like Damian Dunn to create, to create in that offense, to be able to, as Aaron always says, get play inside out, to find Ty on the wing, have those guys drive and kick for shots. Like the offense becomes a lot more fluid because the shot selection becomes a little bit different, if that makes sense. Like they're running a little bit more of a free flowing offense instead of quick hitters knowing that Caliph is more than 50% likely going to hit the shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest way it changes. And I don't think it's a knock on Caliph in the slightest. I would say it's more of a compliment to the rest of the team for the way they've responded after having relied on him for 7 games. You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying, player?
Yes. Dante's on mute and he's laughing. He has a De Niro look on his face, the way he's laughing, like the
Dante's got a nice soft smile right now.
Yes. Dante, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah,
no.
it was
it was good. It was very
lot
good.
of-
Very, very good diatribe.
lot of basketball talk there out of our hoop head, Sam Cohn. Good stuff. All right, so let's go to Twitter here. Quite a few questions on Twitter. Just want to make sure I don't miss any here. The next one here, this is a football related question when it comes to recruiting, from Off the Hook 3, Temple Tough, from Twitter. How many players does it appear Temple will sign next week for an early signing period? Great question. They've got 6 committed right now. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to answer anything other than 6 unless, let's say for argument's sake, it's Elijah Robinson or it's Stan Drayton, and they get in this weekend. Again, they can start the early signing period starts a week from today. Again, we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon. We'll have this out for you guys soon. So there's a week, maybe if you get the head coach in and, if Elijah Robinson swoops in and maybe says, hey, I think we can get this kid out of Jersey, or there's a fringe kid, down in Texas. I asked him if he wants to, hey, I got a spot for you now. If you want to come with me to Philly, I could see maybe 8 tops with them still having to recruit into January and early February for the late period. But again, just to review here, they have 6 guys verbally committed. Corey Yeoman at linebacker, Jackson Pruitt on the offensive line, who says he's still, he's informed us, and I think a couple other media outlets, that he is still planning on signing with Temple. Khalif Kemp from Philly, Mekhi Green at West Orange High School, Sam Martin up in Staten Island, and Reese Clark from St. Joe's Prep, who was the first player from the 2022 class to commit. So they have 6 guys committed right now. I could see, again, maybe, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 at the most. I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on this?
I would be hard pressed to see them increase that number by more than 1 or 2, like you said, John.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really up against the clock, and it's not like this was a robust class before.
Right.
Like this was going to be a, if Rod was still here, right, we'd probably be sitting here talking about, like, what the heck are they doing? Why do they only have 6 players?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'd be hard pressed to think that this class is going to be filled with a lot of high schoolers. What I will say is, depending on who the head coaches be, right, you look to the transfer portal. Can you get guys in that way to kind of, beef up this air quotes class at that point? I think that would be to look at maybe 2 or 3 guys out of the transfer portal right away. I'm assuming that number will actually probably increase closer to 5, I would think, given who they've lost and who they're going to have to replace, depending on who the coach is. So that's where I think the guys are going to come from. As far as high school players, maybe 1, maybe 2. If somebody's on the fence and they like the head coach that does get hired, if they, have a previous relationship or something like that happens. But I mean, this is going to be a small class no matter what.
Next question here. Again, the rest of these are from Twitter, similar to one that we answered before. The Twitter handle here is Temple Fan Owl. What are the odds new coaches named on or before Friday? You guys odd setters, oddsmen?
I would say on or before Fridays, like plus 250.
Oh,
I don't think it's that. I think it's less and less likely that it's by Friday. I'll say that.
I'm
Dante,
going to say
Parks Casino, Dante, Hollywood, Dante.
There's some money to be won here, Dante. What do you got?
Is there some money to be won here? I don't know. I was going to say about like plus 300, like 350. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be Monday if I had to guess.
Yeah, I could
That's
see a
my
Monday.
guess.
I could see a Monday.
Yeah. I'm very much in Kyle's conspiracy camp that the offices have to be open for Temple to process something like this. So I'm going to say Monday is my guess.
Could be. Next question here from Twitter. The Twitter handle is Owls72, Glenn Phillips. His question is, how important is it not having a head coach in place by signing day? What do you guys think? I may have an answer on this, but what do you guys think?
I mean, I think it would be significantly better if they had a head coach before signing day, right? Like, I don't think that's like anything groundbreaking that I'm saying. Like, yeah, obviously you want the head coach of the football team to be in place before you sign a bunch of high school recruits, right? Like, and you want to give that guy an opportunity to. I think the underrated part of this is that, like, what if the head coach comes in and he doesn't want these guys, right? And then you kind of have to have those tough conversations that we've talked about. Is like, hey, we'll honor your scholarship, but maybe you're not going to play here any time ever, like stuff like that, right? Like, yeah, I would want that coach to have that opportunity to evaluate the guys that have already committed and really give those kids the best information that they possibly can, and those things change. So it's not only is it important from a, hey, we want to get more recruits in and we want to have, a longer period of time to recruit so we can get better players. It's also like, maybe the head coach comes in and he decides, I'm just throwing out a name because it's the guy that I interviewed. Like, Sam Martin isn't really my type of back. Like stuff like that happens. We're seeing it happen across the country right now with the way the coaching carousel is. A ton of dudes met with Billy Napier in Florida, who just got hired from Louisiana Lafayette, and they decommitted after meeting with Billy Napier, right? Because he was probably like, not my guy. And that stuff happens a lot. So I think having a coach in place before the early signing period and giving them an opportunity to watch these kids and decide if they're going to fit into their scheme, their program, and the way that they view it is just as important as being able to recruit for longer. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Next question here, and I don't know what the heck happened to my computer. Okay, there we go. Well, let me, Sam, did you have anything else you were going to add to this before I hop in on this one real quick?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I mean, I could see, if there is a scenario in which, and again, this is just me kind of just speculating here. If there is a scenario where they don't have the new head coach in place by the 15th, I think you just see Thad Ward running the process here. I think at this point of these 6 guys, if all 6 remain committed, you're going to hear them saying, hey, I committed to Temple just as much because of the school as the head coach or anything like that. I don't think, like, if they don't have a coach in place by the 15th, I don't think that people should look at this and be like, oh my God, this is such a holy crap scenario. I can't believe they don't have a head coach in place. I mean, look, a bunch of guys committed to Manny Diaz and then he bolted a few days later. So I don't think it would be completely out of the ordinary if, we're covering that December 15th signing day, and it's Thad Ward kind of just running point on this. I do think, again, any coach will come in, watch film of these guys. I think most guys would say, hypothetically, hey, you committed to Temple. I want to honor that commitment, but I'll have a realistic conversation about where I see the arc of your career. I've talked to a few people whose opinions I respect, and these are people outside of, these are a couple people I talked to here. They are not on Temple staff currently, but, I talked to a couple people, and at least a couple of them had some pretty high opinions on at least two people. Corey Yeoman, the outside linebacker from Clearwater Academy, his brother, Anthony Sorrell, plays at USC and played at Holy Spirit in out in Jersey, close to Atlantic City. And, I've heard good things about him, and, heard good things from, a couple of people about Mekhi Green and their thoughts on Mekhi Green. And, I talked to him when he, right before he committed to Temple. He's a smart kid, a really good student, very fast. Asked about why he didn't have more offers. And I think some people point to his height, but he's fast, he's quick. So we'll see. But another great question, certainly one that I'm sure fans are worrying about or wondering about. But could I very much see a scenario where the new head coach is in place by the 15th? Sure. But is it important? Of course, as Dante said, yes, it's important. But I don't think if it doesn't happen that way, I think there is a way they can roll with it. Next question here comes from our friend Sean McGady, who does the I'll Be Back podcast. So he's chimed in on Twitter here saying, based on your basketball skill set, who is your current Temple basketball player comparison? I asked Sam this a few weeks ago back on my show. Dante, we'll start with you. Sam, then we'll go to you next, and then we'll finish out with me.
An audible
and you guys,
sigh
if
when
you
say
have
that, Sam.
we'll get to you.
And the audible, no, that's fine. Start with just an audible sigh.
Audible sigh.
Then we'll get to Sam.
Oh, there was no audible sigh there, or was there? You have to also consider that I
Check
said,
the
like I
tape. Check the tape.
I have eaten no
check the
less
tape,
than
yeah.
17 high chews this afternoon, and I am very much going between like peaks and valleys of just sugar rushes. I've yawned several times. It's not because you guys are boring me. It's because my energy level is going up and down. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. So, Sam, it's not about you. There was no audible sigh there.
That's okay.
I'm gonna go back and check the tape. You are the one that edits and produces this podcast. You can go back and check the tape. So who's to say that you can't? But
Dante, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Dante. And also let's not. I mean, even though he's not here, let's take this opportunity to assess basketball ability or speculate about it and come up with a comparison.
All right. I don't know about Kyle. I was going to comp myself to Ty Strickland. I think I'm much more of a mid-range shooting guard. I was like a very streaky 3-point shooter in high school. I would have like stretches where I was like very, very good. And then I would have stretches where like, I don't think I could hit the side of a backboard from 3-point range. So I think like Ty Strickland, like I was a, kind of a little small, decent ball handler, good mid-range shot. That was kind of my game in high school. I shot a ton of free throws. I lived at the free throw line. So I think that's probably the easiest comparison for me. I was going to go with either him or Dame, but Dame's too long. He's too athletic. I was not that athlete that Damian Dunn is. So I'll go with Ty.
Dante, how tall are you?
5'10".
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not Damian Dunn.
No. No.
Have you ever seen Dante and Damian Dunn in the same room at the same time, though?
I have, yes. several times.
John, actually.
Yeah. Sure I have. Yeah.
Yes.
Sam.
I don't know if I have a great answer for this. I guess Jeremiah, just because I can shoot the ball, but like I know if the shot's not falling, then I'll just facilitate and like just play the point and just find dudes, just like drive and kick and find dudes and so I am a much worse Jeremiah Williams. I'll go with. I think I got long enough arms. I got long arms.
Yeah, nice.
I got like
I think honestly, like
6'1" wingspan.
You know, it's like sitting here and stretching your arms out like a 5-year-old kid who just got off a roller coaster. That's you illustrating your wingspan.
Yes. and I can't fit it. I can't fit it in the Zoom. Hold on, let me back up a little bit for you.
Here we go.
It's pretty good.
Like,
It's pretty good wingspan.
Not too shabby.
Pretty
I have
good.
a picture of me at the Basketball Hall of Fame when I was like 12 next to Kevin Durant's wingspan. One and the same.
Oh.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer I give is a much worse Jeremiah Williams. John, what about you?
So I'm going to think back to because I did not play high school basketball. I played in the Lionville Youth Association. Anybody in Chester County, particularly Downingtown, LAA basketball. It's where legends were made. Not quite. Anyway, I'm going to go with, can I shoot? You ask, can I shoot? I can shoot a basketball. I'm a good shooter. I have probably like Division 7 athleticism, NAIA athleticism, can't dunk, lateral quickness, questionable. I'm about 5'11", so I'm not even as tall as my comparison, but Colin Daly can shoot. He's from Havertown. I live in Havertown. Boom. There we
Love
go.
it.
There's the
Absolutely
comparison.
love it.
Love it.
Say no more. Just a couple of Havertown guys lighting up from downtown. That's my comparison. Kyle,
I have a Kyle
Kyle, who's
comparison.
one of the, oh yeah, who's your Kyle comparison?
Dame Dunn for one reason.
Absolutely not.
Dame Dunn is the most prominent shit talker on the team. That's got to be Kyle.
All
Right?
No, I think he's
that is
he's a
Kyle.
much shorter Erasmus Parks. Or he's a Ryan Sayers. He's Ryan Sayers or he's Erasmus Parks.
Him and Ryan Sayers kind of have the same haircut.
They do. Yes, they
People are
do. I
wondering.
mean, that looks
People-
like Ryan Sayers looks like he could maybe be Kyle's son.
Low key, yeah. Low key.
I don't want to let Kyle get away with like, I'm Zach Hicks or Kyle's not even here to defend himself, but I like my answer of a much shorter Erasmus Parks.
I think it's a fine answer. Just to be clear, my only comparison between Dame and Kyle is if we were to play a basketball game, I think Kyle would be the shit talker.
Well, he absolutely would. He would say
Absolutely.
unspeakable things to the point where you would have to call timeout and you'd be like, what did you say? Have I ever hurt you that badly to the point where you needed to say something that scorched my soul in that way? That says Sean Mohan's question. I have the same question. Okay, he was Sean Mohan. Twitter handle at Sean Money Mohan had the same question as Temple Fan Al, where the odds new head coach is named on before Friday. I know we got a couple more here. From next Twitter handle here is at Matt Deebs. Any idea why it took Quincy Adamakoya? This is the question we were alluding to in the mailbag. Any idea why it took Quincy Adamakoya this long to crack the rotation? He struggled in limited time last year and hasn't been great this year, but still surprised to see him just now start to crack the rotation, especially on a team that looks to lack perimeter shooting. Sam, I think you kind of, you talked about it earlier. I personally like the decision to throw him in there. Let's throw him in there, see what he can do. I think there are several coaches in America who might start a kid to say, okay, we're going to put you out there and start you, see if you can knock down a couple shots. If you don't, the under 16 timeout, we're getting you off the floor. We're putting someone else in there. Why not see what he can do as you're thinking about managing your roster in the future? I mean, he can shoot it, but I think what we talked about before and what Sam had mentioned before, and particularly in the Penn game when he tried to drive to the rim every time he did, there was some sort of degree of difficulty there. He either turned it over or had to pass out of it. And I think that's why he hasn't cracked the rotation. I think they want to see him do more, defend more, rebound more. Didn't want to steal your thunder there, Sam, but I mean, is that kind of where you would fall along the lines of that, that answering that question?
I would agree. Yeah, I'd agree with everything you said. The only thing I'd add is in the question, it says he struggled in limited time last year and then in parentheticals hasn't been great this year. Last year, a lot of the reason he didn't play was, and Aaron had said this, like it took him, and this is a pretty common thing in college basketball, it took him a little bit longer to kind of come around to the speed of the game and the physicality of the game. And I was saying to someone before the Penn game that when Quincy was starting, that I kept thinking back to that one play, and I, for the life of me, can't remember who it was, but who was against. It was at the Leah Course Center where Quincy puts a three off the side of the backboard. Temple gets the rebound and they swing it back to him and he pulls it again. So like he's a born shooter. His confidence is through the roof and he knows who he is. again, shot 2 for 9, I think, in the Penn game, and then 1 for 5, I think it was in the Vanderbilt game. So like, he hasn't been able to necessarily prove that and like be able to stay on the floor because of that. But this is the second time he's played he played 18 plus minutes, whatever it was. So I think it definitely takes time for him to get really acclimated. But as you said, I like the decision to give this kid a shot because he's probably he is the most experienced other guard they have. When when Ty was out and with Caliph out, like, he's got more college basketball experience than Jaleel. He's got more college basketball experience than Zach. He's proven to be a shooter. They really like his length on defense, as you said, all this. So I would second all that. That's probably why it took him a little bit longer to crack the rotation. And now there's an opening. Let's give this kid a shot.
I also kind of feel like this is really his freshman season. I mean, to say that he struggled last year, sure. So did the team. They went 5-11. It was stop, start. Nobody had a summer. So I would also take that into consideration. You talked about that whole, were you saying he put a shot off the side of the backboard? Was that last season?
Yeah, last season from like the left wing. No, not a single person in the stands.
I mean, that happens a lot. I mean, again, and I want to preface this and say this rather emphatically. I am in no way, shape, or form comparing him to Khalif Wyatt. They're different players, different size, different build. But I mean, Khalif Wyatt looked completely overwhelmed. I think you guys can remember, if you've been a longtime Temple fan, Khalif Wyatt's freshman year, they got their barn doors blown off by Kansas at the Liacouras Center, and Khalif put a shot, really missed the mark. And I remember a bunch of people saying, "Oh my gosh, this kid is overwhelmed. He's from Norristown. He's out of shape. He's like, no wonder why he only had, Drexel and LaSalle and Delaware offers. And he looks out of place. What are they seeing in him?" He turned out to be a very good basketball player, a fringe pro. He's playing overseas now. Again, do I think Quincy Adamakoya is Khalif Wyatt? No, but it's a common thing for a true freshman to come in and be kind of overwhelmed, and your first shot, or for one of your first few shots, really misses badly. And again, things were so helter-skelter last year. I am curious to see if he just, I think that his form's too good for him to not knock down a few more. I think for him, it's more confidence, being stronger with the ball. If, as cliche as it sounds, if your shot isn't falling, what else can you do to contribute? I mean, if a shot isn't falling, the question will be, if a shot isn't falling, is Aaron just going to take him off the floor? Or if your shot isn't falling, what can you do? Can you get in passing lanes? Can you rebound? I mean, he grabbed a few rebounds last night. He wasn't completely useless in that department.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I want to clarify that, like, that story of him putting one up the side of the backboard was more complimentary to him because he got the ball back 2 seconds
and shot
later
it again. Yeah.
And nailed one. So the confidence is there. He can shoot the ball. The other thing I'll say is he's taken 14 threes in 2 games. Two things. That means two things about that. One, he has the green light more than anybody on this team right now. Nobody else on Temple has the green light like Quincy Adamakoya does.
Number
to just
two,
let it fly from 3.
Number two, if you do some quick math, it's 7 threes per game.
Number 2 is that I can only recall, of those 14 shots, one attempt that you could look at and be like, maybe he forced it. Maybe that wasn't the best opportunity.
Dante, your thoughts on Sam's?
He takes a lot of good shots. He gets a lot of open looks.
It was a nice pitch. It was a good pitch. You got good. It was good inflection. You know what I mean? You got your point across.
Larry David-esque.
Yes.
I thought. We've got
Sam Newman's question. Sam Newman's question
might be the highlight. Similar to the Sean McGahee question, but a little different vibe here. We got a couple more here. So Sam Newman, Clemson insider, Sam Newman, owlscoop.com alum, Sam Newman.
Alum. Yeah.
Only on the pod just a couple short weeks ago. We love Sam. His question here: you have to assemble Temple's next coaching staff using current/former owlscoop.com staff members. Who are your choices and why? I feel like I have an unfair advantage here because I have been the editor of the site since 2006, when you guys were just eating SpaghettiOs and just getting into trouble and playing with.
I never got into trouble.
Playing with Matchbox cars and whatever 6-year-olds did in Bucks County and suburban Boston. Anyway, you guys go with what you know. Build out your staff. Do we need to fill out like all 11 positions here? I probably could, but just give me like head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. You can create a position if you want. Let me, I'll fight it. Let you guys fight it out. Who wants to start?
I'll go first.
Dante
I
has
wrote it
notes.
down.
You
Yeah,
have
I wrote it
notes.
down. Yeah, I took notes. I went with the people that I currently interact with the most and related to Al Scoop. So I don't have like any like history here. So I have John as the head coach, and we talked about Stan Drayton earlier. Like I feel like John would be a very good CEO head coach, kind of like delegating responsibilities and being very like everybody calm down, like I could see that.
Give me what am I like? What am I like in press conferences?
I feel like you're closer to Rod Carey than Jeff Collins, but not quite like Rod Carey, you know what I mean? You're more on that like calm, like, look guys, we just weren't good today spectrum, but you're definitely not like the showman that Jeff Collins was. I don't think that's you. I think you're more straight laced to the point, which I think is.
Would you say that I
better.
maintain a better camera angle on Zoom than Rod Carey did?
Well, that's not a hard thing to accomplish. So yes, I
Yes.
think you definitely do. I think you've mastered the coach camera angle on
Thank
Zoom
you.
for sure.
Certainly appreciate the answer.
Certainly disappointed by being the head coach. I made myself the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because why the hell not?
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. We would be the most aggressive fourth down team in the entire country. We would not have to recruit running backs or punters. It would be phenomenal. I made Sam Newman the defensive coordinator. If you don't
Because
follow,
he's angry.
yes, if you
Be a
do
very
not follow
aggressive defense.
Sam on Twitter, yeah, it would be cover zero, Brian Flores blitz on every play.
Buddy Ryan's 46 defense.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If you don't follow Sam Newman on Twitter, he is just a very like angry at a lot of things type person.
Yes.
The Mets, Zach Wilson haters, the Jets. It goes on.
People want this kid to fail.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I think he'd be a good defensive coordinator. I have Kyle as the special teams coach only because I think that would be freaking hilarious. Like I just like imagine Kyle like watching a kicker miss like 3 straight kicks. Like is just like that would be incredibly funny. Yeah, he'd like throw his thing on the ground. He'd be like freaking out. Like I think that would be really really funny. So I put Kyle as the special teams coordinator.
Do we run a lot of fake punts with up backs and stuff like that?
I think Kyle would be creative. I do
too.
I think he would be creative. I think we'd be like Temple during like the Ed Foley era, if you will.
Yeah.
I have Sam as a DB coach because Sam has swag, and I have never seen a DB coach without swag. Right? Like who's the swaggiest? Yeah, who's the swaggiest position coach? It's always the DB coach.
Thank you, Dante.
Yes, I think Sam would be a good DB coach. Caden, I have.
Wait, time out. What would I be like in a presser?
Sam's like, wait. We haven't talked enough about me. Keep going.
What, Sam? I don't know. Like, I think Sam would just be like very much like, like the classic DB guy, like just very confident, like very like,
get a great group.
Yeah. Like,
got a good room, runs a good room.
Yeah, runs a good room. We cover 24 days of the week, like just, some like insane things.
All we do is watch film.
Yeah,
we don't practice ever.
We watch film and eat chowder.
Yeah. Like
we never practice. We just watch
very
film.
much like a football guy, right? Like just
I'm the head coach. I'm saying you have to practice. You cannot practice. Get your ass on the practice field. Sorry, Dante, go ahead.
I have Caden as our recruiting coordinator.
Tell our listeners why Caden is our recruiting coordinator.
So not only does he do the recruiting coverage for the site, the football recruiting coverage, but we were at a Temple football game, and Caden and I typically sat next to each other, and he comes in. I forget which game it was. It might have been like the Memphis game, or maybe
either that or
BC.
That. It was either Memphis or BC.
And he comes in and he walks into the press box, and he just looks like a mad professor. His hair is messy. He's got like his shirt is like untucked. He comes up to me and he walks up to me like real discreetly at the line, like getting coffee at Lincoln Financial Field. And he walks up to me and he goes, I think I'm addicted to recruiting stories. I was like, what are you talking about, man? He's like, I DM'd like 40 recruits this weekend. I have like 40 stories to write this weekend. He's like, I've already written 8 of these. He's like shaking. Yeah, he's like shaking. And I'm just like trying to be like, relax, man. Like, maybe you don't want to, do that many at once. And so that's why he's a recruit. Like, I just imagine like John is like sitting in his office, like, watching film, right, as a coach, and Caden just busts in and he's just like, I have 40 recruiting profiles ready for you. It just like throws them on the desk and like runs out like to his own office. Like that, like that's how I imagine the staff.
Caden's like, this dude gets on base. Just
Yeah.
busted.
Yeah.
Poor
It's like
Caden. I had
He's
to
like
tell him.
Moneyball.
I had to tell him like, he's like, how many of these do you want me to write? I was like, let's wait a few weeks. Let's wait a few weeks and see what the storyline is in a few weeks. He's like, oh, I think I know what you mean. I was like, yeah, let's wait a few weeks. You might be doing some reaction pieces. Gotcha. Love Caden. Great fit for
Yes.
him.
Yes, I think he'd be great at it. My last one, I have Javon as an O-line coach, and I didn't think about that until last night when I heard him yell about John Harbaugh and the Ravens, who he complains about constantly, despite the fact that they're a perennial Super Bowl contender and have an MVP caliber quarterback, which is just absurd to me. But I think he'd be like a very good O-line coach. He's got like the raspy voice
Yes.
for it. He's got the mentality of like, just go out there and beat the crap out of the other guy, man. Like I could just see Javon being that dude. So that's my Al Scoop staff. I put a lot of thought into this. I blew off about 30 minutes of Temple News work to write this out. So
yeah, your eyes did
stuff.
light up. And I remember you saying to me, yeah,
That was extremely thorough.
Yeah.
I think Javon gets like an associate head coach title. Kyle probably maybe throw Dante in there because I can just see like I can see Javon like you maybe just looking at me and saying like let me take this one, and him just like because he is like, how old is Javon? Is he 20 yet? He's like 20 going on 58. He's very much an old soul. Would recruit the living heck out of the DMV for us. Would just be a monster down there. Sam, you have something else to share?
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into as much depth as Dante did because that's just not anything anybody wants to listen to. Me say that. Dante, fantastic. I agree with almost everything, with just about everything you said. My quick run through would be John head coach, Dante as my offensive coordinator, Kyle as my defensive coordinator. Caden as recruiting pretty much was the easiest pick of them all. I love Javon in the O-line. Sam Newman, I think I'd make my quarterbacks coach. I would say Graham Foley is our content, just pure content.
Mm-hmm.
Tom McNudo, strength and conditioning coach. And it's just them eating. Tom would get those guys beefed up.
No,
it's all about the food. It's all about what Tom's like. It's all about we're putting these guys' bodies. He's very in on nutrition, like the food aspect of it.
See, I've got, so this is where I'm going to go in a little bit more depth with just like stretching out the years a little bit more. See,
Where's
like
Varun too?
Oh, Varun's like an analyst and like a team historian. Like Varun like fondly remembers things and times for which he was not actually alive.
Varun is the guy that comes into the team meeting and is like, January 8th, 1974. And everyone's kind of look around like, what?
It was a day that will live in the hearts of Temple football. So I think, Sam, I have you as my cornerbacks coach. I need Tom as my safeties coach, and Tom just like teaches, like all of our safeties play in the box. Nobody covers, and they all just want to take everybody's heads off. Everybody's a strong safety. I also need Tom to recruit Delaware County very heavily for us, in which he will be very successful there. Like he's gonna find kids at Haverford High School. He's gonna find kids like out close to the airport. Like he's gonna find kids just at all over the place. I need him on the field. Jamie Gray is our strength and conditioning coach. You guys have never met Jamie. He was like three or four Sams ago. He was before Dalton Balthaser engineered the podcast. Jamie like runs a bunch of marathons. He's in great shape. He's our strength and conditioning guy. Although I understand where you're coming from with Tom. I could see Tom having a little bit of a mean streak to him and saying, I need you to pound like 4 cheesesteaks from some cheesesteak joint on McDade Boulevard, or somewhere in South Philly. I'm gonna have my former assistant editor Mike Mudrick is either gonna be, I see him as like maybe like an analyst, see him, and maybe he's like my chief of staff. Very, very measured guy, just a lovely human being. Yeah, Kyle's my. I had Kyle's my defensive coordinator. Just because he's just going to cook up some stuff. I see Kyle being very engaged one week and just devising a great scheme, and then the next week he just completely mails it in, and we give up like 670 yards. And I look at him, and he says like, "Look, I got a lot of things on my plate. What do you want me to do?" Dante is absolutely my my offensive coordinator. I tell him to run whatever the hell he wants. Like we go.
Well, to be fair, never running anything.
Yeah, we don't never run the ball.
No, I'm just saying like, well, I don't know, but like maybe one week he's like, we're going to surprise everybody. We have not run the ball in the first 6 weeks of the season. This week we're going triple option. We're going wing T. We're going to run the freaking Statue of Liberty on 3 plays. Like we're going to do all sorts of crazy stuff. Dante's my offensive coordinator. Kyle's defensive coordinator, associate head coach. Sam is a co-DC and linebackers coach. Again, just teaches every single linebacker
technique guy.
Just play angry. I don't care if you cover in the flat. I don't want you covering tight ends. I don't want you covering linebackers. I don't want you covering running backs on wheel routes. I just want you to be angry and blitz and just tackle people. I want you to bite on ball fakes, tackle the guy that didn't get the handoff, he's just angry. And right before games, we tell people, like before he comes up with his game plan for the week, that everybody hates Zach Wilson and that everybody hates Oasis, and he'll be just juiced up. I love Javon coaching our O-line. Like I'm coaching our wide receivers. I think they're going to be physical trash talkers. I'd be comfortable with him coaching either position group. He does gripe a lot about the Ravens offensive line with Villanueva. Like I could see him being a good O-line coach, toughening those guys up. Like I said, he would just own the DMV. I see him out recruiting Loxley at Maryland, winning recruiting battles there. Caden, absolutely recruiting coordinator. I see Caden having like a staff of like six recruiting interns and just like working them until they're just burn out. Like Caden's recruiting lab, just wearing like some sort of lab coat and just the glasses, the whole thing.
I have nothing to back this up, but I'm picturing Caden having like a small office and you walking in to like check on Caden's recruiting progress, and he's got like 6 interns that you didn't know existed.
Yes. Also, like we could have, you guys haven't met Matt Vender yet. Matt did a great job for us. I could also see Matt was a killer recruiting analyst. Matt could be our SID. Matt, if he's listening to this, we'll know why he thinks that's funny. Someone who shall remain nameless, who was trying to line up a staff, promised him that job. So Matt will hopefully get a kick out of that. So we got Javon offensive line. We don't really have a receivers coach, right? Who's coaching the receivers? Who's coaching the tight ends? Sam, you want to coach both sides of the ball? I'm going to have you coaching our defensive backs and our wide receivers, and I will not give you a raise for it. I'll give you a parking spot. I'll give you a really good parking spot. And
that's all I need.
Lots of Qdoba coupons.
I don't have a car, but I'll take the parking spot.
We'll get you a car. We'll get you a car from some dealership in like Bucks County where Dante knows people.
That's right.
Who am I forgetting?
Run down, but
Don Otto, our photographer. Don Otto is our videographer. Who else? Dalton. I got to find a place for a Dalton ball phaser. Dalton, probably maybe like our director of player development. Very, very methodical. You know what? I call Adam DeMichael and say, listen, have you ever necessarily been an owlscoop.com staff member? No, but we do a podcast together. So now you're part of the media. You come in, you're my quarterbacks coach. Let's get creative here. Colin Thompson.
I was going to say, does that mean we can lose?
It's been like, let's bring in Colin on this. I mean, Colin, really, how am I the head coach and Colin Thompson's not the head coach? I mean, Colin, honestly, if I call Colin right now, he'd say like, I'm in. So he'd be a Carolina Panthers tight end. I think he's still the offensive coordinator at Lower Cape May Regional High School. Colin is on our staff maybe Colin's coaching the tight ends. There we go. He's our tight ends coach, co-chief of staff, something like that. Colin's just going to be, he's going to be our hype guy. Who else? I got Mike Mudrick in the mix. I'm going to forget somebody. I got to find a spot on the staff for John Terlecki, who initially gave me the idea of creating the Scoop. So I got to find it. John is a high school English and communications teacher down in Delaware in the school district down there. John played some high school football. I could see John being like a co-offensive line coach. I know that you guys are saying, who are these people? But I think it's a pretty solid staff. Am I forgetting anybody? Oh, I didn't. Yeah, maybe Graham's our social media guy.
Oh yeah, Graham's easily our content.
Graham's our social media guy. I charge him with hiring some interns. It's a pretty good staff, right?
That's a well-rounded staff.
Yeah. So Dante,
I think we'd win the AAC in year one.
in year one.
Clean up. No rebuild. Clean up.
Sam Newman's going to listen to this and just be like, why do you guys think I'm so angry? We're going to say, because it's the truth. Temple Dave, one of our subscribers, saw that question and said, I would enter the transfer portal. So Dave's not down with our staff.
Didn't even hear the staff yet. He saw Al Scoop in general, and he was like, no.
Temple Dave's going to come to me. Temple Dave, if you're listening, you're going to come back to me and say, you know what, John, I want to play for that staff. And I say, Dave, we did not fill your spot. Our arms are still wide open for you. We have a couple, I think one last question here on Twitter from Andrew on Twitter. The Twitter handle is Debit Dial, I guess. Does McKee have strong support from the new athletic director, Arthur Johnson? Always interested in the coach AD dynamics when the coach is inherited. I get the sense that he does. You know, I have not asked Arthur Johnson that specific question. I think that Arthur knows that Aaron is in year 3 of a retooling, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. I think Arthur has a great amount of respect for Aaron. I also think that, you know, and again, I'm projecting 2 years down the line here, so this is all completely and utterly hypothetical. I think if we get to year 4 and year 5, and there's no progress being made, and this team still hasn't gotten to the tournament, I don't think Arthur Johnson is afraid at all to sit down with Aaron McKee and say, hey, I know you're one of the greatest players of all time in this program's history, but, you know, what are we doing here? But, you know, he's not at that point yet. But I do think that Aaron does have support from Arthur Johnson. Again, well, you know, haven't asked him that specific question in a press conference, haven't had a long, deep conversation about it, but I do get the sense that he has support. So anyway, lot of, like, we promised you a mailbag heavy episode. We answered a lot of questions, a lot of goofy off the wall ones. We can happily report, as far as we know, that John Rothstein is still safe. He was not harmed during the recording of this podcast. I have now created jobs for several people on my staff. I will be completely overwhelmed, have a lot of football to learn. I will lean on Dante heavily as my overly aggressive offensive coordinator. 4th and 17 from our own 3-yard line. Dante says, no question, we're going for it.
4 verts or bust, baby. 4 verts or bust, man.
All right, let me give you that before we close things out, and you guys go on with your day here. Let's play that out. 4th and 17 from our own 3-yard line. Dante says, no question, we're going for it. What do you run? And how do you convince everyone else on the headset that you're not nuts? No, don't back out of it. You're all right.
Hold on. It depends on what defense we're looking at here. If it's a heavy man-to-man defense, right, you're gonna run like, you know, 4 verts, right? Like I'm sending everyone. We're chucking the ball up to our tallest dude. Hopefully he comes down with it, right? Or you want to run like comebacks, right, with 2 seams, right? You're hoping you take that safety if they're in cover 2.
You've got the current Temple roster.
All right.
So no Jaden Blue.
I'm punting if I got the current Temple roster. You give me last year's roster. I got Brandon Mack. I'm going for it. I'm 4th and 17. I'm chucking the ball up to him.
Who's to say that maybe like a Jordan Smith or Ronnie Stevenson doesn't listen to this podcast and he sees you on campus? Like, are you Dante Collinelli? Yes. You're punning because you think I can't catch the ball. I hope that happens. I hope I witness
man,
it.
Jordan Smith looks like a decent little player. He dropped a couple of drag routes this year, man. You got to catch those before I'm chucking the ball up to you on 4th and 17. I'm sorry.
Sam wants to make Sam is so excited to make a point here.
They're in man defense. 4th and 17 on our own 3. 4 out wide. Everyone's going deep, clear out the middle of the field. And then like Rayvon Bonner up 5 yards, dump it off to him. Field's wide open.
Pass being thrown by Mariano Valenti.
Yes.
I mean, who else is it? Well, I mean, I guess Dwan Mathis is still,
He's back.
as of now, he's back.
That's my point.
Sam Newman's got some good young linebackers to work with.
Yes, he does. Yeah. I gotta get Javon to get me some DMV offensive line.
He's got he's
a big rebuild up there, man.
Well, but somebody's got to tell MJ Griffin to come back. You know, we got a lot on our plates as a new staff.
We do. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, we got to prioritize. We'll do a staff retreat. Where would you guys want the staff retreat to be?
Oh, the Al Scoop barbecue?
Yes. We should keep pushing. Dante would want the staff retreat to be in Miami. I'm gonna put a big no on that.
I think my pick would be.
We gotta recruit those kids. We gotta start a Florida pipeline, John. It's strategery, like that. That's what
you want to go play for Coach DiCarlo. What's his experience? He's never coached football before. That's why it's gonna work.
I think staff retreat, Graham's house in South Philly. Graham's rooftop in South Philly. That's our retreat.
It's not a staff retreat. I used to live in South Philly. We need to think bigger than that. Love the food. If we could get the food delivered from some sort of lovely establishment.
It's like we got to go to the Jersey Shore, right?
Maybe. Colin's going to get us a place. Colin's going to get us a fine place to stay in for like a week, maybe a week or two. Bunker down in Cape May. This time of the year, the season's over. We're taking over. The season's over. There's no bowl game. Washington Street Mall, Cape May, beautiful this time of the year. That's where we're going. Colin will take care of it for us. Anyway,
thanks, Colin.
What an episode. Thank you, Colin. Thanks for tuning in this week. Maybe by this time next week when we're recording, Temple will have a new coach. We will see. Thank you for all the mailbag questions. You guys made this one a fun episode this week, and we will talk to you soon.